Hello, and thanks for joining me today for your practice. As we begin today, I've been considering the concept of duality and what it teaches us. And often we may see this reflected as the yin yang, the black, the darkness, and the white light over here. And noticing how the two need to coexist. We see this dynamic in many areas of our life, and that one cannot exist without the other. And so, I'm elaborating on this when we think about, wanting to be loved or experiencing love, there's risk involved in that, right? So, in order for us to feel love, we're taking a risk of heartbreak, of hurt, or rejection. And these are all can be very painful things. But if we don't take that risk, what is it closing us off from, right? What are we then missing out on? And so, kind of coming out of this long, eventful holiday weekend, I've been reflecting on this a little bit more too, as my body is craving more slowness, more stillness, and my oh so familiar routine. And that this past weekend, I was willing to sacrifice and take the risk of, my 9:30 bedtime, and, staying out a little bit later and kind of indulging in all the decadent treats and fun activities with family members. But that was a choice that I was willing to make, knowing that, I could return eventually to my everyday routine. But there is risk and reward involved. And being able to get clear on what we're willing to risk and what we're willing to sacrifice can help us have more direction with our goals and really start to notice like what we want in life and what gives us energy, what takes away our energy. And so there's this constant balancing act of what we do and what we don't do, what we risk, what we don't risk, and how it impacts us. Yeah, so we'll kind of weave this concept of duality into our practice today and just do a short little flow to kind of notice how that lands in the body and maybe in our practice, like what is a non-negotiable and what am I willing to give a little bit of wiggle room. And oftentimes, as we know, our yoga practice is so much more than the physical postures, and so much of what occupies our mind, our values, our philosophies, what supports all of that. And so taking this concept and really extending it outward to other areas of our life other than the physical practice. So let's begin in a seated position, whether on the shins or in a cross-legged position. Sometimes I like sitting on the shins because it gives a nice stretch in the front of my legs, the front of the ankle and feet. But settle in wherever you'd like and closing the eyes down or letting them be heavy. And the hands can rest wherever feels comfortable. And just begin to bring the attention to the breath. And see as you settle in if the breath naturally irons out and gets a little bit deeper. Maybe feeling the belly, the chest expand as you inhale, and then a fall as you exhale. And then on your next inhale, let's bring the hands to heart center. You can keep the eyes open or closed. And then we'll inhale, the arms go wide, reaching up towards the sky. And then exhale, hands to heart center. Inhale, the arms go wide, reaching up towards the sky. And then pressing palm into palm, exhale, hands to heart center. Inhale, lift the arms up. And exhale, release the hands to heart center. Good. This time we'll inhale the arms up overhead and we'll take a gentle twist. So exhale over towards the right, fingertips plant, rolling the shoulders down and back. Inhale, finding length through the spine, reaching through the crown of the head. And exhale, release into the twist. Notice where you can soften. Maybe it's releasing the jaw. Good. One more inhale here. And exhale fully. Inhale lifts you back to center. And then exhale over towards the left. Fingertips can plant. Rolling the shoulders down and back, maybe drawing the heart center forward just slightly. And inhale fully into the twist. And then exhale, see if you can rotate just a little bit more. One more full round of breath here. And inhale brings you back to center. Exhale, hands to heart center. Let's meet in tabletop position. All right, spreading the fingers wide, shoulders stacked over wrists, hips over knees. Maybe just start to take some figure eights with the body. And just kind of snaking the spine, feeling into the hands, the wrists. And then going in the opposite direction. Just starting to wake up the body. And then we'll meet in a neutral tabletop position. And we'll come into some barrel rolls. So inhale, drop the belly, gaze up, tailbone lifts into cow. And then we're going to exhale, begin to shift the torso over towards the right, and then round the spine up and around towards the left, and then dropping the belly back through center and doing that again, rounding the back over towards the right and then the left, and dropping through center as you arch the back. Good. If you'd like to coordinate breath with this, you can inhale, arch the back, and then exhale, round the back as you come over and around. Twice more on this side, really pressing the hands into the ground, using those as anchor points. Good. And then we'll reverse it. These are one of my favorites. I always love doing these first thing in the morning. They always feel so good in my body. And just really slowing down with this and noticing if there's any resistance when you start to slow things down. Good. And then we'll meet in tabletop position. Tuck the toes, send the hips up and back, downward facing dog. Release the head down, maybe pedaling out the feet, bending into one knee and then the other. Breathing into the back of the legs. Good. And then we'll settle in stillness, dropping both heels down towards the ground. Inhale here. Exhale, sigh it out. Gaze up at the hands. Take a slow walk up towards the top of the mat. And we'll meet in a forward fold. Deep bend in the knees. And then option to find ragdoll here. So maybe grabbing for opposite elbows or interlacing the hands behind the head. Maybe getting some traction in the neck. And just letting yourself be heavy. Maybe finding a sway from side to side. And then we'll release the hands to the ground. Forward fold. And we'll move with breath a few times to a forward fold and a halfway lift. So inhale, halfway lift, but extend the arms wide into a T and lift yourself up halfway. And then exhale, float yourself back down. It's almost like you're growing wings as you inhale, spread them wide. And then exhale, float back down. Good. Twice more. Inhale. Spread your wings, and then exhale, release back down. Good. This time we'll inhale all the way up to standing, and then exhale, hands to heart center. Taking a moment here in Tadasana, maybe hands released to the sides. Finding your feet, really rooting down through the soles of the feet. And even here, finding this concept of duality as the feet press down into the earth, the spine lengthens, the crown of the head reaches up towards the sky. This equal opposition. Good. Let's take a big step back with the right foot coming into crescent lunge. Inhale, the arms go up overhead and sink into the hips. Slight bend in both knees. Release the shoulders down the back. And then exhale, open up, pivot the back foot, coming into warrior two. Adjusting your stance. And arms reach out long. Taking a moment to settle into your warrior two. Feeling the strength in your legs and your arms. And then inhale, flip the front palm, come up and back, reverse warrior. Steady breath here. And then exhale back to warrior two. And then begin to lengthen the front leg. We'll find triangle pose. So shift the hips towards the right and reach with the left fingertips over, and then exhale. Release the hand down. Maybe right arm reaches up overhead and stay on the hip or even come behind the back in a bind. So finding your version of triangle, Trikonasana. And staying long on both side bodies. So checking that we're not collapsing into the left side and seeing if you can really engage the abdominal muscles and still find length as we lean over to one side. Good. Couple more rounds of breath here. Fingertips can tent up on the shin. They can come to a block or the earth. Good. And then on your next inhale, we're going to bend that left knee, rise all the way up, coming through warrior two. And then inhale, turn the toes, exhale, coming into a wide leg forward fold. So hinging at the hips, releasing the head down. Toes in, heels out. Staying here for one more round of breath. Good. And then on your inhale, you can bend the knees. We start to turn the toes out and roll all the way up. And then we'll shift the feet to the other side. So toes pointing towards the right. Exhale, the arms long into a T. Warrior two. Flip the front palm, inhale, reverse warrior, breathing into the right side body. Inhale yourself back to warrior two. Lengthen that front leg, hips shift towards the left as the right fingertips reach over towards the right, finding length on both sides of the torso. And then exhale, release the hand to either the leg, block, or the mat. And left arm can stay overhead. Maybe it comes to the hip or reaches behind for a bind. And just taking a moment to settle into your Trikonasana. And steady breath, slowing it down. Good. And then bend the right knee. Inhale yourself all the way up. Warrior two. And then begin to shift the hips towards the back of the mat. So turning the toes towards the back of the mat, coming into crescent lunge. Sinking into the hips, slight bend in both knees, and seeing if you can energetically pull the feet towards one another. And just notice if that changes the intensity or any activation that you might be experiencing in the legs and the hips. Good. And exhale, step the left foot in to meet the right, coming into Tadasana, mountain pose. Good. Inhale, the arms go up. And exhale, hands come through heart center as you release to a forward fold. And we'll do that little sequence with breath that we did on the other side. So inhale, inflate your wings, finding yourself coming up halfway. And then exhale, heart-led as you lower back down. Good. Twice more. Inhale, spread the wings, float up. And then exhale, release back down. Once more. Inhale here, halfway left. And exhale, let yourself release back down. Good. Let's step back to plank. Option to come to the knees. And then we're going to come on to the belly so you can lower down through chaturanga or knees, chest, chin. And release the head to the floor. And on an inhale, begin to lift the head and the chest up. Shoulder blades draw back. And you can find baby cobra. And then exhale, release the head back down. Good. Once more like that. Rolling the shoulders down and back. Inhale, begin to lift the head and the chest up. And hands stay by the outsides of the chest. And exhale, release. Good. On your next exhale, go ahead and press back into child's pose. So hips to heels, arms can stay out long, and just rest the forehead down. Good. Breathing into the back of the heart. You can walk the hands over towards the left and rest your head down. Finding a nice side body stretch on the right. And then walking your hands through center over towards the other side. Breathing into the left side body, getting long. Creating space. And then coming back to center. And then on your next inhale, we'll begin to walk the hands back towards us and start to stack the spine. Coming to a seat on the shins, or if that's uncomfortable for you, you can always come to a cross-legged position. And we'll just come into one more stretch before we close out. And you can drop the chin down towards the chest. And on an inhale, we'll roll the head over towards the right, releasing the shoulders down. And then exhale through center. And inhale over towards the left. And then exhale, release. And inhale to the other side. And you can go back and forth using your breath. And maybe you stop and pause and breathe if there's a certain spot that feels extra good. And after your next rotation, we'll come back to center and inhale the head back up. Maybe taking some shoulder rolls, as these never go out of style for me. Good. And then bringing the hands to heart center. And thanking yourself for showing up today, just to get a little bit of wiggle, a little bit of movement into the body. And maybe starting to explore some areas of your life where risk is welcome and risk is not welcomed. And just staying curious about it. Maybe just noticing how this concept of duality shows up in your life and what your experience has been with it. And we'll bow together, sealing out our practice. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to seeing you somewhere again on your mat.